I've spoken a great deal about the topic of smartphone addiction, but what I haven't spoken about is the fact that our society as a whole is starting to become more and more dependent on smartphones. I mean, it's getting to a stage now, ever increasingly, where it's becoming more and more and more difficult to actually just live in this world without the expectation that you have a smartphone. I mean, employers expect you to be connected even after working hours. Some people I know are even fielding work calls and emails and checking in on the social media of the business they work for while on holidays, on the weekends, all this kind of stuff. And it's a little bit much. But more than that, we're putting more and more critical everyday lifestyle related functions on our smartphones. So not only is it our web browser, our email, our gaming device, our television effectively, our radio, obviously it's calls and texts as well, but it's also our camera, and now it's also becoming our banking device. It's becoming the machine that we use to replace our credit card, our debit card, to replace cash. So we have all of these extra functions that we used to be handled by plastic or something in our wallet, and now this means that the value of our smartphone in terms of our life and in terms of its economic value as well, because it has a monetary value obviously if it's stolen, is rising all the time. So you may have experienced this, and a lot of people do. If you accidentally leave the house without, it's like an accident now, if you leave the house without your smartphone, or you lose it, or it falls out of your pocket, whatever, and you're running around the house, you know, lifting up the couch cushions and moving everything and just throwing everything all over the place to try and find your smartphone, it's extremely stressful, and it can be very aggravating because your whole freaking life now is on your smartphone, and people experience huge anxiety. Maybe it's because they're addicted, but also because it's getting to a stage where you just can't afford to be without your smartphone. And here's a scenario that I've experienced myself. There was a friend's house that I was going over to visit, and I hadn't been over to their house before, and they just gave me the address. So I said to them, okay, how do I get to your house from my house? And they actually couldn't quite describe to me how to get there from where I live. Their response was, well, just put the address into your Google Maps on your smartphone or your GPS device in your car, and it'll tell you how to get there from there. Now, that wasn't an option for me because my phone is this baby. So that was not going to happen. But so I ended up having to go through Google Maps. What was annoying is that they actually couldn't tell me how to get there themselves, because I know that this person uses GPS all the time. It's like a really bad habit now. So there are routes in the city that they don't know how to get to that are actually really simple to remember. They're not that difficult, but they've decided not to commit that route to memory and just entirely go every single day through their GPS. I know another person who doesn't even know how to get to work. They completely rely on their GPS every single morning. I mean, this is a route that you're doing every single morning with the help of your GPS. Surely at some point you could turn your GPS off and then know how to get there from the amount of times you've driven there with your GPS. But no. So it seems very strange that these devices can sometimes prevent us from committing stuff to memory. And that's kind of the worry, and there's evidence of this in the world of education and study and college. And to me, this is kind of a form of intentional voluntary enslavement. There was a study conducted, it was the Mobile App Behavior Survey of 2013, and it said that 85% of the respondents would rather go without water than their smartphones. Now, when we have studies like that, and also another study in which the college students said that they would rather go without sex, coffee, and eating out in nice restaurants and cafes than their most frequently used apps, and that 44% of Americans sleep in their bed with their smartphone. I mean, this is horrendous. I know people who are waking up in the middle of the night to check their phone. Maybe they need to go and go to the bathroom. And on their way there, they'll take out their phone and check if anybody's commented on their Facebook status or whatever, or something else, or checking texts or whatever it might be. And the glare of their phone in a darkened room is extremely bad for you. It's extremely bad. Not only can it mess up your circadian rhythms, which is your sleep patterns, and also there's always the danger when using your smartphone, the glare of the screen in a darkened room, could cause an epileptic seizure. Employers are expecting people to be connected first thing in the morning when they get up. You know, if you are fielding emails and taking work calls, and I know people who are doing this when they're out to dinner, on the weekends, when they're on holidays. The boundaries between work and home, they really need to be redefined, because we need to start recompartmentalizing again. Because it seems to me it's all too fluid. Some major employers are starting to recognize this. I think it was Volkswagen in Germany were among the first to start saying, right, no longer are people able to use their phones after 7 p.m. But, you know, are people really going to enforce it? Is it just a nice thing to say? It's not really something that in practice is going to happen. Because again, there's always the brown nosers. I've worked with a few who are only too happy to break those rules to be seen to be, you know, the kind of work martyrdom crap. And everyone hates that person anyway, because, you know, they're just a douche who's trying to protect their own job. When they do that, they set a precedent for everybody else, and then everyone has to break that rule and seem to be doing it. Now you're just simply working to live as opposed to living to work. Smartphones were first and foremost supposed to be communications and entertainment devices. So obviously a phone for texting, for emails, for web surfing, and of course for, you know, an MP3 player for watching videos, things like that. But now, of course, it's become a lot more than that. Not only is it a web browser, but it's also a device that has so many other functions that were previously taken care of by something else in the real world. So now we're starting to see things like Apple Pay and NFC technologies, whereby it's becoming your credit card, your debit card, or cash. And this opens up a world of problems, because, you know, it's increasing the value of the device all the time. It's also becoming something that hackers are going to be more attracted to hacking. If I lose my smartphone, I've now lost my phone, I've lost my wallet, I've lost even my ID, and eventually I'll be losing my passport, because you know for sure that eventually the smartphone is also going to be your passport for travel. So you effectively lose everything. I just think that we are putting too many functions into the smartphone, and at some point we need to step back and say, okay, look, it's becoming too valuable and we're starting to depend on it way too much. So in today's video, I'm asking the question, beyond just basic obsessive personal smartphone addiction, going beyond that, do you think that we should be limiting and pulling back the amount of functions that we're giving smartphones, because they are starting to pervade every facet of our lives, and the expectations of relationships and our employment and society and our culture is starting to suggest that we need these devices more and more and more. So please let me know what you think in the comments below, guys. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button. You can subscribe to me by hitting the big red subscribe button, and of course, please check out my previous video over on the left hand side. You can follow me on Twitter at Lax78. Computing Forever can be found over on Google Plus and on Facebook, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.